When people ask how, I guess, to be a historian, one of the things that you need really is you have to be a wide reader. You read a lot of things. Well, basically, kasi you have to know the lay of the land. So kunwari like you're doing the Philippine Revolution, your first stop is Agoncillo.
Paano kung di mo alam
you
yun, sir?
read, you will know kasi he's the only one.
Sabagay.
So you read it.
Okay.
I mean, it's the main source. So you read him, you know the story. Then the second step is you go through his biblio. So titingnan mo yan, ano yung binasa niya para makita yung libro, di ba? Agoncillo gave me focus, taught me what scholarly rigor is, that your sources have to
Like,
be.
talaga may one-on-one kayo, sir? Like,
At one point, he says, ay nako, iyo, wala kang matututunan dyan sa department. Ako na lang magtuturo sa'yo. So, in a sense, those few meetings, pouring
basa.
everything that you know into a new receptacle.
Welcome back, guys, to Ambet Revealed. And today, our episode, sir, I think it's one of the things that you told me about that you wanted to tackle dati. It's basically an episode where we sort of dive deep into paano nga ba maging isang historian? Diba? How does one become a historian, especially for those that are starting early now? Diba? What are the steps, right? So, I think in an interview that you had, sir, with Howie Severino, diba? Tinanong niya sa'yo, bakit ka nga ba naging historian? I wanted to ask that the same to you, sir. Siguro, just a brief overview, bakit ka naging historian, and then let's get into the technicalities of it later.
Mahirap na well, that's a question they always ask
Right?
me, diba? But my answer is always that I was an accidental historian. I did not plan to be a historian. It's one of those things that happens to you. Now, the opportunity comes, you work in a particular way. Like, when I started writing, no one was writing history because they thought history was boring or history was not important. Diba? So, because I concentrated on it and I was the only one, so the niche was really mine. And so it turned around because of my journalism that was focused on history. Then I got invited to teach. Then you meet people. And eventually it became, I went back to school, took graduate degrees. And that's what focused me. But when people ask how, I guess, to be a historian, one of the things that you need really is you have to be a wide reader.
Wide reader.
You
Okay.
read a lot of things. So there is this famous essay called The Hedgehog and the Fox, which they always use in academics to show that the hedgehog knows, the fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows only one big thing. And I realized when I went to did studies in London that most of them are hedgehogs. So from high school pa lang, they're already training to become historians. And I realized that they really know their area very, very well. Pero yung Pinoy, maboka tayo eh. So we know many things, pero kalat. Hindi tayo malalim. Although I'd like to think that I'm neither a hedgehog nor a fox. I'm a combination of both. I'm a malalim in some parts, but kalat in many parts. Kalat not in a negative way, but you know many things. And the secret is really connecting things together. So one, you have to read a lot. And then I look back on my childhood because I'm writing my memoir. You're starting to look at what were the books that you read when you were younger. I was fortunate because I grew up in a house with books.
Okay.
And a normal Pinoy home does not have a home library, or what passes as a library is a shelf with textbooks from college that they did not want to throw away, diba?
Order.
So in our home, we had my aunt's medical book. She was a doctor. So that's how you learn anatomy, looking at all the dirty pictures in the medical books. Then my father, although he was an engineer, he was a wide reader, read literature, but he liked crime things. So we had books. So and the memorable books of my childhood was they gave me an illustrated encyclopedia. It was called The Art. I remember the Art Link Letter. encyclopedia. Parang it was 10 volumes. It was
Mm.
nicely colored. Then you learn about Montezuma, Pizarro, para siyang comics, pero
Mm.
So, yan ang binasa ko. And then, there was a series of books. One of the things I liked was reading about, I read Aesop's Fables, I read Greek and Roman
Iba-iba,
mythology. So I was surprised. I'm actually surprised now that my students don't. I said, wala ba kayo niya nung high school yung kwentong Griego, di ba? Because I said, even before I went to high school, I knew all my Roman gods and goddesses. And unless a young person reads Percy Jackson, they won't recognize. They don't know what Mercury
I don't
uses,
know
di
that.
ba? I mean,
Yeah.
when you see the man with the winged sandals, you know that's Mercury. And because you see Mercury drug, you
Mm.
know what it looks like.
Mm.
But di ba, what is Poseidon? So if you don't know the the basic, wala. I also like to think that because I like all that Greek and Roman mythology, the first time I went to Europe, you enter the halls of the Prado or the Louvre, and then it's painting after painting after painting that they're all based on Greek and Roman mythology or biblical stories. So if you do not know the story, the apple that's given to the three graces or Hercules,
Yeah.
and if Samson, his hair being cut, parang it's all lost to you. But I realized that because I had that training, my first trip to Europe, going to the museums, it's like opening your eyes because you understand what the iconography is. So I mean, it's if you to put it in a more modern way, if you read Dan Brown, that professor who looks at things, no? So it's ganyan, you connect things together. He looks at a painting and he can see meaning. But when I really come to think of it, it it I think partly I blame Shakespeare for making me a historian because
Layo.
high school,
Okay.
in the Ateneo, we had one Shakespeare play a year. And the standard text was what was called the Folger text. So you open it, on the left, it's Shakespeare, and then on the right, it's all the obscure footnotes, so you will understand the text. And I was more interested in the footnotes than the text. So, bata pa lang ako, I was already interested in useless information. And that's why it's always reading the footnote. So that served me later as a historian. When historians open a book, we always open to the back. We always look at the sources kasi pangit, kulang ito, hindi primary ang sources, wala na. Or then we also look at the notes kasi we want to see where the assertions come from. Is it reliable?
Yeah.
What did he use? So it came in that way. So when I was writing history, my first influence, of course, was Doreen Fernandez because while she was a scholar of theater and food, she's basically a historian. So she was the one who taught me how to do a term paper, how to write well. Then there was Emilio Aguilar Cruz, di ba? Member of the Historical Institute, who, although he didn't finish high school, became ambassador to UNESCO, spoke 3 languages, read a lot, and he would let me read many things. At reading nakalat, di ba? He would read everything from a telephone directory to an Umberto Eco novel. But the real turning point is really going to meeting Teodoro Agoncillo, kasi yung kalat nag-e-enjoy ka lang. But Agoncillo gave me focus, taught me what scholarly rigor is, that your sources have to
Like
be.
talaga may one-on-one kayo, sir?
Well, he was retired and he was not well. No? So I only knew him his last year.
Okay.
And in retrospect, I often think if I had known that he would die in a year, I would have seen him more. But when I first met him, I didn't even know who he was. No, so I attended Doreen Fernandez's book launching in LaSalle, came late. There's only one seat in the back. It was beside this man in a wild batik shirt. So we conversed. We talked for an hour.
Tadhana.
I didn't know who he was. And then when sabi lang niya, Saturday I have a lecture in Intramuros. You might want to attend. And then so when he left, I asked Sol Reyes, who was also my teacher, sino yung kausap ko? And then she said, that's Teodoro Agoncillo. Oh, I used to think he was dead na. And then sabi niya, isang oras kayo nag-usap, hindi mo kilala. Kasi
Hindi mo man lang tinanong,
hindi ko
sir.
na matanong sino kayo, di ba? I knew it was a room full of
Okay,
writers.
okay.
So the next Saturday, this I knew who he was, I went to Intramuros. It was his talk on his memories of what Intramuros was. And it was an eye-opener because he says everything you read about Intramuros, all that romantic thing, hindi, mabaho siya, malamok, mainit. And then this is somebody who knew Intramuros before the war. So it was fascinating. And then on that occasion, the Intramuros had bought from the US a newsreel, a pre-war newsreel, shot in Intramuros before the war. So they screened it for the first time. Then Agoncillo asked me to sit with him in the back and silent yung film. So as it was rolling, in-explain niya, yan yung Ateneo, ito, letran yan, ito, ganito. So,
Galing.
and then after that, he says, oh, why don't you visit me at home? So this is my phone number. They don't give me the phone. So when you call, you tell whoever answers that I asked you to call. So they will give me the phone.
Mga ganun
So,
pa.
ganon, kasi medyo ano na siya. So we arranged, told me his address, I would go. And when I went the first time, he had asthma yata. So I was brought to his bedroom. He was in a parang in bed, may oxygen mask. His wife was a doctor. So parang before coming in, parang wag mong papagurin, ha? At saka sandali lang ang interview ninyo, di ba? And then she left us when soon as the door closed, took off the mask, then he sat down and then nagkwento na siya. So the first time was mga 3-4 hours siya. He was so excited to tell me many things, and it was cut short because the wife opened the door and
Kota na.
parang she could not say so, but she sort of signaled na
Take a hit na,
tama
sir,
na,
di ba? Take a
tama
hit
na,
na.
di ba? So yun. So I visited him a number of times. And at one point he says, ay nako, Iho, wala kang matututunan dyan sa department kasi tapos sabi ko, hindi po ako nag-aaral ng history. Saan ka nag-aaral? Sabi ko sa Ateneo. Ay nako, that's even worse. Huwag ka na mag-aral dyan. Sabi niya, ako na lang magtuturo sa'yo. So in a sense, those few meetings were actually, I'd like to think maybe had a sense that he was going to go. So this is
Parang
pouring
pasa.
everything that you know into a new receptacle. Unfortunately, because Doreen Fernandez published 2 volumes called The Writer and His Milieu. So they interviewed the first, second generation writers in English, and they published the oral history. So it was Doreen who says, since matyaga siyang kausapin ka, why don't you bring a tape recorder? Diba? So I brought, and then I said, do you mind if we record? So we actually had 3 recorded sessions, which later became my book, Talking History. And when it was first published, well, people tried to stop the publication. He was dead na when I decided to publish it. So he did not sign a release. He did not sign the transcripts. So one of the things that was floated was that I invented it. It's all made up. But people who knew me, like Serafin Quezon, who was director of the National Library and the Historical Institute, sabi, you read it. Anyone who knew him will recognize the voice in that page, in those pages. Okay, so that was thrown out. Then the second objection was the recording was unauthorized. Parang I did not ask permission, tape record. But tamang-tama, buti na lang kasi I took pictures. So I have a number of pictures of him talking and then the tape recorder standing on the table beside him. And when you listen to it, there are a number of times where he says, when the people found out I was interviewing him, parang the daughter said, the daughter or the son, parang, ba't mo binibigay dyan? Ikaw na lang gumawa. So sabi niya, they gave me a tape recorder. But how can I record na wala akong kausap, diba? And so that was the thing. So people were wondering how I got in. And I'd like to think also it's that, no, the people who mattered to me, no, those 2 people who were with the Historical Institute, Onofre Corpus, also with the institute. Carmen Guerrero Nakpil, my predecessor
Mm.
as chair of the commission. I don't think they would have given me the time of day if I was a Dumbo. So in a sense, I was not really prepared, but I had enough on my own that they knew
Feel
this
ko na
person is worth talking
yeah.
to, di ba? But when you think about it, like, kaya Agoncillo kasi it was pop quiz. So he'll give me something to read. And I thought it's just a suggestion. Hindi pala, na pagbalik ko, he presumes that I read it. So it was like a real
Grabe,
class,
no?
di ba? So, I told you to read Florante at Laura. Siyempre, naalala mo lang from high school. O para look at this text. Anong ibig sabihin nitong paraluman? Ganyan. Butterfly. Sabi nyo, read the text again. Then parang it's not pala a butterfly, it's a compass rose on a map. So yung mga ganyan
My God.
maliliit. And then parang, where does Florante come from? Is it F, Florante meaning a flower, or is it Florante with a P, which means tears? So after that day, shit, when he gives me something to read, I have to read it para pagdating mo, pag nagkwento siya, alam mo yung tatanong mo. So again, I wish I had knew him more, but he was the one who taught me. And I would ask him things like, swerte nyo naman, naabutan nyo si Aguinaldo at saka so sabi ko, ako, libro na lang dokumento. And I remember asking him, how can I tell? Sabi ko, I have two sources. How do I know which one is better? And then that's what he says. If you read a lot or you've read on the period, you can fact check and you will know which of the sources are reliable or not. That was one. So he threw that out. And then we once talked about objectivity and history. And he was the one who says there's no real objectivity. He says it's stupid to ask for objectivity. And then his example was, Ambet, when you research for something and you write a text, because you have X number of pages, you have to choose what do I leave in and what do I leave out. That choice is already subjective. So every history is different depending on who is writing it. So marami siya mga ganyan. But the other thing that he really told me, because as you know, Agoncillo didn't finish his PhD, which is probably why I consciously did not finish my own. He only had his MA. And I remember at the time, but hindi po kayo nag-PhD? And he said, his reply was, sino magtuturo sa akin? And today, when you hear that, parang yabang naman niya. How can that happen? But I guess I said, put him in his context. In the 80s or the time when he died, nobody would have dared to. I mean, in terms of the Philippine Revolution, he's the guy you read it. So how can you teach him, diba? So he taught me that. He said, in the end, you are not judged according to the letters after your name. You are judged by body of work. You will be judged by the writings what you leave behind.
Yep.
And it's true. So his example was always, yes, there's all these people who did a PhD, but after they got their PhD, wala na, dead end na. They didn't write, they didn't research you, wala na. So they have the title, but they don't really deserve it. No? And when I was in England, that was also what my supervisor says. I don't care what you write. You just have to produce the thesis, and what you do after your dissertation is what we will wait for. So, ganun yung naging training ko. But my luck has been that all of my friends were older than me, and all of my friends were people, I did not inherit them from my parents. So they didn't know Agoncillo, they didn't know Abel Cruz, they didn't know Armando and Ayi Malay. So because of my work, I learned, I got to meet many people who later became friends of my parents, but they were basically my
But don't you think,
friends.
sir, it was you innately within yourself looking for these maybe more seasoned?
I would go to UP because that's where all the named professors are.
Diba?
And I would just talk to the professor, can I sit in the back? And most of the time they're flattered that somebody wants to sit in their class. So I sat in many of the senior history people. I sat in anthropology. I sat in people I was interested in hearing. So in a sense,
Yeah.
I got another education that I wanted. And when I was in that class, because I was
Mm.
only sit-in, I could say anything kasi wala naman akong grade eh, di ba? So I ended up actually sometimes more interested than the
Okay.
people who are
Yeah.
enrolled. So my history path was really built on A, many years of reading, and then B, it was meeting the people who rightly or wrongly
Galing.
made me into the person I am. So like in terms of historical research, I was traveling with my sister and a cousin who had just graduated from college. We went to Europe, and then we were in Spain for I think 2 weeks. And then I remembered that there's a great Philippine collection north of Madrid in a place called Valladolid, the Augustinian Mother House. And there was an Augustinian historian there, so who I knew by name. So I told my sister, I'll go na to this Valladolid to see their museum. So I went to the museum, I asked for him,
Mm.
and then ganun din, we chatted, and then what are you doing? What are you interested in? I'm interested in history. I want to do a history of my province. Yeah, Pampanga, sabi niya, that's Agustinian. So I'll show you. So he brought 17th century material. Oh, look at this. And then later sabi niya, I'll teach you how to read it. This is the abbreviation for this.
Galing.
This is that. And then later he says, when are you going back to Madrid? Later, why don't you stay a few days? So I'll get you a hotel. So hindi ako bumalik ng 2, 3 days yata. So I went to the library and his first was, this is our card catalog. So that you will know what's in it, you have to read every card. So that was one day. Just looking through every card para malaman mo anong laman lahat
It's
ng
ridiculous.
library. Then the second day was,
Ridiculous.
I'll give you something. So ganon. So he leave me, nagsusulat ako dyan, may dokumento kang tinitingnan, he'll come at 10 o'clock, o 10 o'clock break, you come up, you have a coffee with me, or you want a soft drink. So we go up, sisigarilyo siya, show me your notebook. I want to see how you're doing.
Took down
So
notes.
ganyan, titingnan, bakit to hindi mo naiintindihan yung word na yan. So in a sense, it was a crash course in reading 17th century material. But how could you do that, diba? I could do that only because, one, I had French and Spanish in college, diba? I had half a year of German in Germany. So I could read it, diba? Kahit hindi ko siya masyadong makuha, at least nakakabasa ka, diba?
Yep.
So my archival training came from that man, diba?
Okay.
Who taught me how to
Okay.
read all documents.
Konting technicality, sir. I think for students, diba? Like you don't have to say obviously how you find yours, right? But tips on you always mention the term you have to go back to the primary sources, right? Especially when doing research, diba? Maybe some disciplines, some ways that you make sure that primary source to, diba? Saan ka pumupunta, diba? Or meron ka bang, is it really about the author? Yun mo nang titingnan mo over anything else, diba? When doing research.
Well, basically kasi you have to know the lay of the land. So you know, kunwari like you're doing the Philippine Revolution, your first stop is Agoncillo, di ba? So you read,
Paano kung di mo alam
you
yun,
read
sir?
the book. You will know kasi he's the only one.
Sabagay.
So you read it.
Okay.
I mean, it's the main source. So you read him, you know the story. Then the second step is you go through his biblio. So titingnan mo yan, ano yung binasa niya para makita yung libro, di ba? And yun nga, ang ano kasi nila is that normally they just give you a list. But it's from, although I didn't meet him, I only saw him in a coffin when he died. Horacio de la Costa was different. Horacio de la Costa, instead of giving you a list of sources he used, he gives you a bibliographic essay. So he will tell you all the sources that ito ang ginamit ko kasi ganito, ito ginamit ko kasi ganyan, ito I think important, ito wag mong paniwalaan. So in that bibliographic essay, he's not only giving you a list, he's already giving you a value judgment. He's giving you a roadmap, di ba? But that's a different way of doing it. De la Costa's one of the few na ganyan. Yung iba kasi talagang listahan. Ikaw, you're left to your own devices, di ba? But, you know, the other day, I arranged, there was a conference of the Philippine Historical Association. And I told the organizers, can I organize a panel? We will not read papers, but I want to invite, because I'm former president of the Philippine Historical Association. I want to invite two former presidents and the current president. And I want to have a panel where we will talk about our archival research. So sabi ko, no papers, no ano. So I will ask them, give them 5 minutes to answer two questions lang. One was, what was your most memorable archival experience? And then two is, what advice can you give to the young people in the audience? So ang ganda, no? So like Dr. Maluka Magay, who's a specialist on women's history. So her eureka moment was she was in, I don't know where, in Spain yata, doing research. So hindi pa siya nag-iisip ng women. Parang she was doing economic history. So she studied parang tobacco and cigarettes. And then, kaya siya napunta sa women because ang workers ng tobacco, yung nagro-roll ng sigarilyo at tobacco were women. So
Okay.
parang doon siya nalihis. And then she found a folder called Alboroto de Cigarrera, something like that. So alboroto, we know what it is. In Tagalog, yung parang ano ba yung alboroto? Uprising, gulo over it. Then she read that, and then that became the doorway for her to go into other things. No, Milagros Guerrero naman, who's also a specialist in my period, the revolutionary period. What she found naman was a document on an uprising in 1745. So parang bundles and bundles. Ano ba nangyari? It was an agrarian uprising. Ano bang kwento nito such that the the bundles went from 1745 till 18 something when the problem was solved. So sabi niya, by reading this, I was able to understand what colonial society was like, etc. So, and then in my own experience, which I mentioned to the people there, I realized, di ba, I was interested in history. I went to the Lopez Museum, dami silang lumang things. So it was my playground. So one day I decided, I'll go kaya to the National Archive, di ba, without any ano. So I went, paid the fee. Then they gave me a folder. O, dito ka mamimili. So it's just general classification. So makikita mo things like sedition and rebellion, in Spanish, or erection of towns. And then, of course, I looked at things like divorcio, aborto. You know already what that is, di ba? Fiestas and observances. And then I saw at the end of the list, Rizal. So sabi ko, madali ito, Rizal.
Okay.
Kunin natin. And then, nung nag-aantay ako, kasi aakyat pa sa taas, ang tagal kunin, there was one other researcher was later caught and jailed for stealing documents, no, and selling them. He worked for the Historical Institute. Yung pala, chismoso siya. So, because taga-gobyerno siya, tinitingnan niya lahat ng application. So, parang ano yung nire-research. So, he saw mine was Rizal. So, he sat beside me and then parang, ba't Rizal yung tinitingnan mo? Kasi gusto kong tingnan. Gas-gas na yan. Ano pang madadagdag mo kay Rizal? Pag mo na tingnan yan, ako naman sa lublo ko, anong pakialam mo, di ba? And then dahil pinahiya niya ako, I waited for my bundle. So the bundle arrived, it was this big. It's wrapped in Manila paper. So you open the tali and then you open it. Then ganyan kalaki yung bundle. And then on the top of the bundle was a letter from James Alexander Robertson, the director of the library before the war. And then it said, I am authorizing today the transfer of all the Rizal documents from the archive to the library. So sabi ko, shit, di wala palang Rizal ito. Pero bakit may laman pa? So I opened it. And then what they left behind, which they did not think was important, was basically where there was a large part where the correspondence of Rizal's sisters. So parang hindi naman siya importante anong kinalaman nun. Pero pag binasa mo siya, things like, sa susunod na buwan, birthday ni tatay, benta nyo yung kabayong brown, bibili tayo ng tela pa. Pag tinignan mo, it's trivial. But when you read these things na very personal, you're able to recreate the home in which Rizal grew up. Remember, he grew up with 9 sisters. So when you look at that, yung mga kwento lang na anong bibilin mo, anong ganyan, anong lotto number na tatayaan natin, mabubuo mo yung kwento ng, so, and that's how I got to know Rizal through the eyes of his sisters, no? And then later I went to the National Library, where I handled the original Noli and Fili. I thought that would be the last thing kasi parang feeling ko, ay nako, one day I will tell my children and my children's children that when I was a young man, I handled the original Noli
Yeah.
Fili.
Yeah.
But when I was there and I was looking at it, doon ko nakita na parang, lalo na dun sa Fili, on the first page, parang may nakadikit na papel na it was in German, pero you can see may lampas doon sa ilalim. He covered text that was in Spanish. So I realized, nung araw kasi he's writing, di ba? So ganun kalaki yung papel. O pag nasa gitna ka na tas nagkamali ka, you have to rewrite the whole page again. Or you write the correction on a separate piece of paper, you cut and you paste it. That's the manual cut and paste. Today you just see the scissors and the paste in your word processing, di ba? So yung pala yung cut and paste. Then the librarian saw me trying to remove this. So tinawag niya yung gwardiya, dedemanda kita, sinisira mo yan. Sabi ko, hindi ka ba curious? Meron nakasulat sa ilalim, hindi ko naman sinisira, tatanggalin lang natin para makita natin yung nasa loob. So they kicked me out of the library. And when the Marcoses were deposed in 1986, then I became consultant to the library. So my project at the time was, sabi ko, 1987 is the 100th anniversary of Noli Me Tangere. So sabi ko, I want to do a study from, because we know the handwritten Noli to the printed version. So how did this develop into the book? So I went to the librarian, sabi, can you open the vault? Hindi pwede kasi siguro si kinuwento na sinisira niya yung ano. And then sinabi niya, pwede makita yung listahan ng laman ng vault. Wala. Meron ho bang draft ng Noli? Hindi, yun lang printed. Imposible hong yun lang, meron pa ho yan draft. Hindi, wala. And the reason why they were very scared was in 1961, the original Noli, Fili, Ultimo Odios were stolen and kept for ransom. That's another story.
Talaga?
So, the person who actually negotiated for the return was the late Secretary of Education, Alejandro Roses. So parang from 1 million pesos, tinawaran niya na 1,800,000, 500, hanggang naging 5,000 pesos na lang, ayaw pa magbayad yung gobyerno. Simply because the government cannot pay ransom. Because if you do, you're encouraging them to do it again. Until he died, he would neither confirm nor deny payment. But I have a feeling nung 5,000, matapos na lang, bayaran ko na lang. Balik nyo na lang. So he was able to get it back. That's another story we'll talk about next time. But because of this fear, the documents have always been locked in the vault. And so when they refused to show it to me, I went back to the director of the library. Ma'am, yung babae sa baba, ayaw niya buksan yung vault. Bakit? Basta ayaw niyang buksan eh. Sinabi mo ba kung sino ka? Yes. Did you say you're consultant to the library? Yes. Did you say you are working here in my office? Yes. And then to irritate her, I invented and I said, sabi nga niya, kahit ikaw magsabi, hindi niya bubuksan. Talaga, sinabi niya. So bumaba, pinagalitan niya yung babae. Buksan mo yung vault. So, and then she told me, sabi niya, you see, that's the combination and the key is with her. I cannot even open this myself. So we opened the vault, and for the first time in many years, I think all the documents were brought out. Kinalat namin dun sa floor. Then doon ko nakita yung, it said, Borrador del Noli Me Tangere, the draft of the Noli Me Tangere.
Wow.
So sabi ko, sabi mo wala, ano po ito? Tingnan mo ma'am, sabi niya wala. So sinabihan siya, pag pumunta dito si Mr. Campo, bubuksan mo yung vault. Lalabas mo
Kasi what would they know, right? I mean,
so anyway, so this was 245 pages, draft of the Noli.
right.
So I started transcribing it because never printed. When I got to page 100, bakit wala si Tiago? Bakit wala si Maria Clara, si iba? The characters are completely different. That's when it dawned on me that I was holding another text. So what I had actually found was the draft of a third novel after the film. which had never been printed
Oh.
because some librarian before the war who did not read Spanish, basta nilagyan niya draft of the Noli, hindi naman pala draft.
My
So
God,
in a
sayang.
sense, it was lying in plain
Mm.
sight. Everyone saw it before, but
Mm.
hindi importante, tapon. And that became my MA thesis. So I actually changed the canon. So you read the textbooks
My
now, what is
God.
the third novel? It is Macanisa, no? So in a sense ganon, luck, no? So and Alejandro Roses used to say not to be superstitious about it, but sabi niya, maybe that manuscript was waiting for you. Maybe Rizal wanted you to find it. Parang 100 years, ikaw lang nakita na yan ng iba, hindi nila pinansin. So in a
Hindi
sense,
nila
you
binuksan.
will
Yep.
see, becoming a historian needs a lot of patience. You have to study history. You need an academic degree in it, or you read a lot,
Mm.
no? Or take an allied degree like anthropology or literature. But it's also luck, no? Na makita mo yung ganyan,
Mm.
di ba? And it changed my life for
Grabe, no?
Mm.
Okay. Okay.